Oh, hello there. Yes, well, welcome to the weekend. And you're welcome to it, mate. Yes, glorious, isn't it? Well, no, it's cold and miserable. But aside from being cold and miserable, it is glorious. Yes, a bit like Brexit, isn't it? Which is a bit like Schrodinger's cat. He's both alive and dead at the same time. So we had one of those great anniversaries yesterday whereby we can celebrate all the things that are great about it at the same time as we decry all the things that are bad about it, because it both has happened in its entirety and hasn't happened in its entirety at the same time. And it has, as Claire Fox might say, reminded us how brilliant democracy is, and at the same time reminds us how we don't really have democracy because of the globalists. Both at the same time. These things are both true. That is until, of course, the file of radioactive poison kills us all. It's a pretty advanced metaphor, but I think it's an apt one. And of course we saw a lot of similar nonsense in the media yesterday. I did have to smile, for example, at that great Brexit guy, Talk TV's Kev, talking to GP Renee, who's dragged on whenever they need somebody with the word GP in the title, because she really knows her biology. And really odd this, because what drew me to this particular interview was the notion that transphobic is a made-up word, and it doesn't actually appear in the segment that they've presented us with. So well done, Talk TV, there, for quoting nothing. But transphobic is a made-up word, and I'm just thinking, yeah, but all words are made up, aren't they? That's the way that language works. It's an abstract sound notion, right? Okay, so I can say the word chair and you get the, well, commonality in a kind of, I don't know, Jungian sense of a picture of a chair in your head, yeah? I can use an abstract noun if you fancy, like, love. And you also have a notion in your head. And I can then use all these other sort of weird sounds and we can construct a nature of reality around them. But they are made up, a bit like Brexit successes, one might say. But for me, the main thing, of course, in terms of absolutely nonsense yesterday was the continuing DEI plane crash and helicopter crash. Briefly, there was the notion that the helicopter pilot was trans, which they weren't. Unfortunately, it does look like everyone involved pretty much was a straight white male, and therefore it has to be trans people who are still at fault, because we all know that straight white males can't do anything wrong. Just look at Elon Musk, for example, who, once again, in terms of stupidity on a stick, was banging on about the what things cause inflation, which is only, and I repeat his own words, only government spending, which I thought we debunked yesterday, but apparently Elon isn't following me widely enough on Twitter. I think he should, because, I could use the traffic, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, he was, suggesting why and how it needs government spending to be cut, because otherwise something, the apocalypse, right? Which got me to thinking the whole notion about state spending, because everybody and his child knows full well that the Weimar Republic printed too much money, and that's why there was massive hyperinflation in Germany in the early 1920s. Except, of course, it's not that simple, because countries print money all the time and don't get that much inflation, if any, or certainly not hyperinflation. Other countries do. You might think of Venezuela, you might think of Zimbabwe. Why? Well, because like Weimar Germany, the money markets didn't trust the governments to be able to pay any of the money back, so consequently there were no long-term monetary assurances that were given up until the Dawes Plan. History fans, yeah, that's your history. Don't know anything about history? Well, unfortunately I do, but I still apparently don't know anything about economics compared to Elon. So yeah, those countries, of course, experience hyperinflation, which short-term some governments try and deal with by printing more money. Yes, at that point it does end up in tears. But you may notice that there was actually deflationary pressures enormously after the enormous cash stimulus after 2008. How come that didn't result in inflation, Elon? Answer: because that's not the way it works. Yes. Anyway, he's very determined to slash government spending, because Otherwise, we'll all die. Except, again, if you look at the historical record, I know, God, why do I do that? It's awful. Imagine bringing a sort of factual, conceptual basis to the table, eh? Awful. Anyway, you can see that, for example, that Britain, during the Napoleonic Wars, was bankrupt, and was bankrupt during World War One, was bankrupt during World War Two, and to a certain extent, although our recent history of debt has not been as high as this, it's not that high. So what's going on there then? How come Napoleon didn't foreclose during the war? Or indeed, how come it was that the Americans after the Second World War didn't simply appoint receivers? Which I guess they did metaphorically, if you want to be picky about it. And the answer is because modern successful economies, like the UK, don't go broke. End of, and certainly not the USA. Now, if everyone was to come off the dollar as an international method of exchange, we might well see a few problems. And indeed, if the Americans sort of decide to go into trade wars with people, that might well happen. That'll be a laugh, because nothing in Elon's big boys book of economics for 3-year-olds will enable him to cope with that as a concept. But of course, you lot are too stupid to understand simple economics, and therefore we have to simplify it to the point of a maxed out credit card. Yeah, explain to me that historically then. Oh, I can't. Still, never mind, eh? Yes, just made up things. There's an awful lot of it out there. Yes, my favourite made up thing, of course, is the notion that gay people are real. Because if you recall that during the 1980s we had Section 28 when Margaret Thatcher suggested that basically we should just get rid of words in and around gay people, because young people felt that young people were being taught to categorise her words that they had an inalienable right to be gay, and so we stopped all of those kind of things, and that's why there are no gay people now. You see how easy these things are when you can manipulate language in a stupid way. Unfortunately, people like me will carry on pointing out that reality doesn't work that way. Still, that won't stop them, eh? Yeah, so long as you can be sold simplistic notions to complex problems, then will mean that we can cut government spending and have tax cuts for the rich, because as you will well be aware, that is the only way that wealth is created, right? Okay? Only way. There was no wealth before capitalism, and we are still on course with the whole trickle-down thing any moment now. Well, maybe tomorrow, eh? Along with that jam delivery. Yeah, still, keep on believing. Brexit, success, brilliant. Even the failures, success. Do enjoy your weekend. Try and keep a stern grip on reality, because by God they haven't. Jeez.